And they've all gone. Now Riis has waited, he's attacked them, he's waited, he's attacked them, and now he's gone.
Phil, he didn't attack them, he actually just rode them off his wheel. He pressed on the pedals a little bit and didn't even realise that he was going away alone.
Well, he is riding like a superb champion. He is proving he is really the very best man in this race. Bjarne Riis gave them plenty of warning. He told them 2 days ago he'd win by 2 minutes at Hautacam. They've all had their chance, they were right there with him. He tempted them, he left them, he went back to them, he tempted them, he did it 3 times, and now it looks as though he's going to ride to the victory at the top of Hautacam.
Welcome back to the Cycling Iceberg podcast. Today's Tour de France stage in 2025 will finish on top of the Hautacam, and you just heard commentary of the decisive moment of the 1996 Tour de France on that exact climb. Let's get into the action. Miguel Indurain was heavily favoured to win the 1996 Tour de France. The Spaniard had won all 5 previous editions and looked equally untouchable when he won the Dauphiné Libéré before the Tour. A 6th victory would make the Banesto rider the sole record holder in terms of Tour de France overall wins. In France, Indurain wasn't loved, to put it mildly. Sure, the French press didn't like any champion, any dominant force who wasn't French, but Indurain, in their eyes, was especially a pain. They detested him, mainly because he didn't speak any French. Champions before him, who weren't French, had at least had the decency to learn French. The French press was certain that the Indurain era was over, especially before he had won the Dauphiné. They predicted, or perhaps it was more hoping, that French riders Laurent Jalabert from Once and Richard Virenque from Festina would take over the title. Outside of France, they were more realistic in what would happen. Indurain was considered the favourite, but there was one frequently mentioned contender for Indurain, and that was neither of these French riders. Rather, Team Telecom's Bjarne Riis. The 32-year-old Danish champion had followed a career trajectory which was absolutely remarkable. He began as a domestique for Laurent Fignon, primarily working on the flat. Until his late 20s, he was an anonymous rider, but in 1993 he suddenly broke through. He won flat stages in the Giro and Tour, but more notably, Riis also performed well in the mountains. He finished 5th in the Tour overall. After a 3rd place in 1995, Riis got a lucrative offer from Banesto. He declined and rather signed with Team Telkom. He preferred team leadership over a role as domestique. In fact, the contract offer of Banesto was seen as a way to sign the biggest rival, potential rival at that point still, of Indurain for the future. The Tour started with a rainy prologue in Den Bosch. Indurain avoided risks and finished 6th as outsider Alex Zülle, a Swiss rider on Once, took the win. The first mountain stage arrived after a week of racing. Stage 7 took the riders over the Col de la Madeleine and the Cormet de Roseland before finishing at Les Arcs. The weather was bad early in the stage. Jalabert bonked on the Madeleine and lost 13 minutes. Zülle crashed twice on the descent of the Roseland, losing 2.5 minutes. The usually so consistent and always reliable Indurain also suffered a bad day. He forgot to eat during the stage and bonked with 3 kilometers to go. He had to let the other favourites go and lost over 3 minutes to his main rivals. Apart from Indurain, Zülle and Jalabert, the GC contenders all finished within seconds of one another. It was Evgeny Berzin from the Givis team who took the yellow jersey and successfully defended it the following day. The Russian won the hilly time trial by 35 seconds over Riis. Indurain, normally an excellent time trialist, at the time widely even considered the best time trialist ever, struggled and lost a full minute. He dropped to 11th in the general classification, 5 minutes behind Berzin. After this time trial, it was clear that things weren't going Indurain's way. After the prologue, people had still dismissed his 6th place, saying, well, it was rainy, he didn't want to take risks. Even the 3 minutes he lost within 3 kilometers were said to be because he forgot to eat. But after that time trial, people genuinely grew worried. Even if there were valid excuses, which at this point was highly doubtful, it would be super difficult for him to recover from 5 minutes. In stage 9, riders were supposed to take on the Col d'Iseran, Col du Galibier, Montgenèvre and Sestriere, but snow and a 100 km/h gust of wind cancelled the first 2 climbs. Only a shortened 50 km stage over Montgenèvre and Sestriere remained. Riis wanted to take the yellow jersey and wasted no time getting into action. On Montgenèvre, he put Berzin under severe pressure. The Russian was able to follow 3 attacks, but had to let Riis go when he went a 4th time. The Dane topped the climb 20 seconds ahead of the Berzin group. On the descent, Riis managed to extend his lead to 50 seconds by taking big risks. On the final climb, he fought to maintain his advantage, but slowly lost time to the chasers. However, Berzin cracked and was dropped from that chasing group. In the end, Riis held on to win the stage by 24 seconds and claimed the yellow jersey. The average speed of this mountain stage was 39 km/h. The Tour looked to have become a battle between 5 men. Riis had a 40-second lead over Berzin, 53 seconds over Mapei's Tony Rominger, 56 seconds over Abraham Olano, also from Mapei, and 1 minute 28 over his younger teammate Jan Ullrich, a German who was a super strong time trialist. Indurain improved as the race progressed, but he couldn't keep up with Riis. In stage 13, to Superbes, Telkom set a super high pace, dropping Berzin and Rominger in the process. Indurain was able to keep up until he suffered a puncture. Despite this, the Spaniard fought back and finished with Olano and Riis, gaining 30 seconds over the other GC contenders. Riis was satisfied with his performance as he too added half a minute to his lead. Riis sealed his Tour victory with an unforgettable performance on stage 16 to Hautacam, where today's stage will finish. With 9 kilometers to go, he tested his rivals with a series of accelerations. Over the course of 2 minutes, he launched attack after attack, each one more powerful than the last one. Bam, bam, bam. When he finally looked back, 4 riders remained on his wheel. Riis started playing mind games. He slowed down and dropped back. He went to ride alongside his rivals, pretending to struggle. He made some pain faces and looked all his opponents in the eye. One for one he went by them, searching for any signs of weakness. Convinced they were all at their limit, he attacked, one last time. This time, nobody could follow. Riis powered away and soloed to victory, finishing nearly a minute ahead of second place finisher Virank. Olano came in 1:45 down. Indurain, the reigning 5-time champion, it was over for him. 2 minutes and 28 seconds. A humiliation. Berzin over 3 minutes down. At this point, Riis led the GC by 2 minutes and 45 seconds over Olano. From that point on, Riis' lead was never in danger anymore. In the final mountain stage, he gained even more time over his rivals, while also allowing Jan Ullrich to move into second place. The young German then won the final time trial, in which Indurain finished second. Telkom secured the top 2 steps of the podium in Paris, with Virank finishing third. Afterwards, some reports, especially in the German and Dutch media, suggested that Ullrich could have become the Tour had he been the team leader. He finished just 1:41 behind Riis, with some sources claiming Telkom even instructed him to take it easy in the final time trial to avoid overtaking Riis. Given the work the German had already done in the mountains, the idea that he could have won wasn't far-fetched. The sudden rise of Riis raised doping suspicions, which only grew when he became a central figure in the 1998 Tour de Dopage. Even after his retirement in 1999, doping allegations continued to follow him. As a manager of CSC, several of his riders were later implicated in doping scandals. In 2007, Riis admitted to using EPO, growth hormones, and cortisone between 1993 and 1998. His Tour win was scrapped from the books, but he was later reinstated as winner in 2008. Riis became the face of the EPO era. His nickname in the peloton was Mr. 60%, referred to his extremely high red blood cell levels. The legal limit for this was later set at 50%. anything above strongly indicated the use of EPO and or blood doping. In 2007, Jeff Dont, a former Spaniard of Team Telkom, published a book exposing the doping practices of Riis and teammates. He claimed Riis once recorded a red blood cell value of 64%. When your blood is so thick, it can stop being pumped around. Therefore, he had to be woken up multiple times at night to prevent a heart attack. It has to be said though that no other sources have confirmed a level that high. It's mostly assumed that 60% is about the highest he's gone. Riis came to symbolize what fans despised about the EPO era. He was an average rider who rose to the top through extensive doping. While most of the top riders used EPO, its effect varied individually. As a team manager, Riis remained controversial. In his book, Tyler Hamilton alleged that Riis encouraged riders to use doping at CSC. Despite the allegations, Riis remained in charge of the team and its successors until 2015. I think there's two main takeaways from this story. First, when it's alleged that, everybody took doping in the doping era, so that equaled it out, that's not true. The Riis case really illustrates that the effect of doping depends on a lot of factors. It's what you take. How good is your doping system? Doping became an arms race, so who had access to the best stuff, the most groundbreaking stuff, the best doctor? But also, how does your body react to it? It's not a natural process to inject these medicines and doping products into your body to increase performance. So the way that your body reacts to it will vary significantly from rider to rider. Riis really exemplifies that, which is also why he's so detested by several cycling fans from the time. The fact that he went from a literal nobody on the flat to pretty much being a flat specialist, but then all of a sudden becoming a Tour de France level winning climber, not even through time trials, no, through climbing, that meant that it was clear for people that they were watching something which had nothing to do with the sport that they had watched before and that they had loved so much. The second part alludes more to the general role that Riis assumed after his career. You had the part where his win was scrapped and later got reinstated. To that extent, I think that if you're going to scrap doping wins, you're probably going to be scrapping most of cycling history. So I can see the argument to an extent why they just keep it there, and especially if you talk in terms of doping, the 90s really marked a shift in doping sanctions. How serious can you take doping violations in the era of copy in Merckx, when one, the performance enhancing effects of it were relatively limited because they were really just experimenting with it, and secondly, the sanctions on it were also laughable. Sprinters got relegated to the last place. Sometimes you could get a time penalty of a minute, maybe 10 minutes, but it clearly wasn't as big of a deal. But that clearly changed when we went towards the 90s and the UCI felt they needed to intervene. Not only was there a shifting sentiment, it also got straight up dangerous. There were riders who nearly killed themselves by injecting too much drugs. But so far, if you want to keep the winners, that's fine. If you want to scrap them, that's not really what matters to me. The thing that Riis, a convicted doper, somebody who's at that point then been open about his doping history, was in teams, managing them. You see it quite a lot with those riders, that they then get alleged in a management position, pushing other riders in their team to take doping products. The same thing happened with Gianetti when he was in Saunier Duval. Gianetti, one of the riders who nearly killed himself. But then when he was in Saunier Duval, the press manager, Hulot, came out and said Gianetti has pressured riders who didn't want to take doping to take doping. So cycling has decided to ban Lance Armstrong, and I think that is a respectable decision from a PR perspective. I think that was the way to go. They needed to say we have nothing to do with this anymore. This is in our past. But then the fact that Riis, a rider who used serious doping and also got accused of pushing riders to use doping, that he could stay around, I think is the wrong signal. I think at that point they should have drawn a broader line in the sand and pretty much, even if you allow dopers in there, fine. But then, there was no real investigation. Did he pressure these riders or not? And I think that is a really, really bad thing. That should have happened. There should have been an investigation. And at some point, they should have drawn a line there. And from a PR perspective from cycling, I just think they handled this really, really bad. I'll probably go into more details at some point in a more specific podcast about the US anti-doping report on Armstrong. But cycling as a sport has an image problem. In many people's minds, it's still attached to doping. And you can either do what cycling's done, which is pretty much just let it rest in the past, no new doping cases come out, and you hope people forget and the memories will be eroded by the time and there's new people coming into the sport. That's one way. Or you try and just take an aggressive approach and try and ban it out and really go hardline against those individuals that you don't want there anymore. Well, so far for the 1996 Tour de France. Thanks for listening, and we will be back tomorrow already with another podcast, this time a little bit more recent.